Hey guys, TommyBryson, and I'm back here with another video. Now, as you guys know, I'm the boring guy on YouTube. I don't like drama. I don't do drama. But every now and then, I watch videos on YouTube and also on Instagram, and they literally make me want to throw up. And there's some people out there that they seem to have the best intentions, but your intentions don't matter, the facts matter. And a lot of the information you kind of hear, it could send you down a road of you losing the money you have. Whether you have a lot or a little, I don't like seeing people fall for dumb things, okay? So in this video, my goal is to break these things down to make sure when you hear these people tell you these things, you kind of know exactly to avoid it. And by the way, there is a specific person I'm thinking about, but I know he's not the only one out there. So instead of trying to mention his name to try to make some drama here, I'm not going to do that because that's not really the goal. The goal here is to make sure that you guys are safe, you know what to look out for, and you don't fall for these little tricks, which are very cheap, by the way. But when you don't know, you fall for them. And when you lose money that you saved, you worked hard for, it is rough to try to go ahead and save up money again. I don't like seeing that whatsoever. Now, the first thing I gotta mention is this: just because someone looks the part, it doesn't mean they are the part, okay? I know people out there, for example, they have the fancy house, the fancy wife, a good physique, they drive a private jet, they have, for example, all these like staples of success, all the badges, okay? And then their information is just 100% trash. Now, I know people that genuinely do this to try to scam people. They know exactly the tactics they're using. They know how to manipulate people, and they use that to their advantage, okay? But then I also know people out there, by the way, I think this is even worse, that generally think that what they're actually saying is good advice. It's not risky. It's actually gonna be solid. Although they make money from it, that's nothing wrong, okay? Because we live in like a finance world. I give you this information, you watch these ads, I make money, but I'm not really trying to scam you, right? But some folks out there, they actually think they're giving you good advice, they have great intention, but guess what? The road to hell is paved in good intentions is a very good quote. And the idea is your intentions don't matter, the facts do. And that's why it's so important before you go ahead and take action, you do your research and you find out exactly, does this actually make sense, okay? And that's why when I watch some of these influencers or finance gurus and they give you this advice and people take it into action, these people always make money. But the people that invest with them might not be that lucky, okay? So here are some things I want you guys to actually watch out for, okay? So number one, I see some of these folks saying, Tommy, you know, a Roth IRA, a 401k, all these Dave Ramsey-esque ideas, they're not actually good. Being debt-free isn't good, paying off a home isn't good, all this stuff, investing into boring investments isn't good either. It's just all stupid. You can actually get better returns out there making 20%, 25% returns. All you have to do is give me your money and I'll work hard and I'll make those deals happen. And by the way, they have real legitimate examples of deals that actually made happen. What they don't tell you is that they make a certain amount of money per deal, and on top of that, they also make money recurring on every deal without actually putting forth any capital because they're the expert and they're finding these deals for you. So you might hear people say, for example, hey, what you want to do is liquidate your 401k. You want to go ahead and liquidate your Roth IRA, liquidate all these things and just grab, for example, a HELOC from your house and grab that money and invest it with me. Whenever you hear words like that, which kind of involve, hey, HELOCs have interest. If you liquidate your 401k, guess what? There are penalties involved in there. You pay taxes, you pay a penalty of 10%. You actually don't want to do those things, okay? And on top of that, it grows tax-free. But whenever you hear these things, you really want to watch out. Now, number two is you hear people tell you these averages, and it's kind of just like averages people just throw out there that don't really make any sense. For example, I heard this one guy, the guy I'm thinking about, he said the average person retired to around $255,000 and they're going to live for a few more decades because of modern medicine. That is awesome, right? That is true in a sense, right? But in reality, that average is circumstantial in the sense that they say, hey, Dave Ramsey's plan isn't good, They use that, right? Because retirement and 401ks and Roth IRA, the average person is retiring with $255,000. But what they don't tell you is that the average person is not really the Dave Ramsey follower. Now, here's an interesting fact I actually want you guys to see right here. So let me pull this up for you guys, okay? So here's the math I ran. In order for you to actually retire with $255,000, do you know how much money you have to be investing for the past like 40 years or so? The answer is, if you actually want to make this happen, by the way, let me just, I don't even know how to make this happen here, but yeah, here you go. Looks a lot better. Okay, so if your goal is $255,000, guess what? And you're going to be investing for 40 years, right? You have to basically be investing around $48 every single month for the past 40 years to end up with $255,000. Okay, so that average person they talk about that only retires with that much money, guess what? It's because they were not investing that much money for retirement in the first place. And that's not really a Dave Ramsey person or a TommyBryson follower in a sense. Or just for example, like skip all these names, just a person that has good financial goals. If a person had been investing, let's say for example, $500 per month for the past, for example, 30 years, they would have had $1 million at the end of the 30 years. For 40 years, can you guess how much money they actually would have had? The answer is, well, not 49 years. Well, for 40 years, they would have actually had $2.9 million. Nearly almost $3 million, okay? My point is, guys, whenever people throw around averages, remember, averages is for average people. The most popular restaurant is McDonald's. The average person is obese. The average person is broke. The average person is paycheck to paycheck. These are those averages for those people. But when you're carrying out, for example, one of these plans, guess what? You're not actually average because the average person isn't doing what you're actually doing, whether it's following Dave Ramsey or whether it's following me and one of my plans here, okay? That's the idea I'm trying to lay out for you guys, okay? Now, here's the third thing I want to talk about, okay, guys? The guy says, don't pay off your home. By the way, the whole point of this video is you hear a lot of bad advice. And this advice is followed up with, there is a better way, more opportunity to do this, but they don't tell you, hey, you're carrying out a lot of risks, and this risk might equal you not being able to retire or things not looking that great, when you can do it a different way and be done with this whole thing in 10 to 15 years or so. And they use it and say, hey, no, you could be retired in 3 years or 5 years. I did it, but then they're still working crazy hard on the internet trying to make more money to live this very flamboyant lifestyle, okay? It doesn't really make any sense, doesn't equate, okay? But here's something I actually do agree with, okay? The guy says, paying off your personal home is like putting your money in jail because your personal home is actually not an investment, okay? But what it is though, and it doesn't stop being, your personal home is still an asset. And in the sense that although it's not an investment because it doesn't really make you an appropriate return. And what I mean is, okay, when you buy a home, and you actually take into account the interest, the taxes, and all the costs associated with this home, in reality, you actually end up breaking even in the long term because of opportunity costs and everything else. So when you see someone says, for example, I bought this home for 400K and I sold it for 700K, but it's been like 30 years. Well, when you average those things out, you actually just basically broke even on the deal. It's not like you actually made a 200K profit because you could have made better investments. You actually paid a bunch of money in interest. You did a whole bunch of remodels, a whole bunch of repairs and maintenance. All those things, when you take into account, they actually make it so the deal isn't really profitable in a sense, okay? But what a personal home is an asset that actually goes ahead and lowers your cost of living. So the faster you're able to pay off your home, well, your cost of living is lowered massively. And that is actually super important because that basically means you have a lot less risk to carry out. If you lose your job, you don't have to worry that much. And when it comes to retirement, your cost of living is overall just lower. Now, here's the last thing I actually want to mention when it comes to the things you actually want to look out for, okay? You always want to read the fine print with these people because they tell you, just grab your money, come invest with me, and they don't tell you they're going to be making money from your money without actually putting any of their capital in actual working, okay? They just take your money and use it to fund deals and make money in the beginning of the deal without taking any real risk. So what does a good plan actually look like here, guys? By the way, I have to admit something. I defend Dave Ramsey these days, but when I was actually pretty young, I went against Dave Ramsey in a lot of ways because I was big on take on a lot of debt, leverage everything, try to maximize all your returns. And then I found out, hey, I'm building a house of cards here, and if things don't work out, I basically go bankrupt in a sense, okay? And that you never want to play a game where if you lose everything, or if you lose a big amount. The point is, when it comes to making money, the first rule is don't lose money, and the second rule is don't forget rule number one, okay? So although I like Dave Ramsey these days, I don't agree with everything, okay? I don't agree with the snowball method. I rather the avalanche method. It saves you more money. I have a video on it, look it up. And on top of that, I don't agree with mutual funds and the high expense ratios. I rather just do, for example, index funds and the lower expense ratios, which save you a bunch of money long term. And I have videos on that too, but look that up too, okay? My point is, I'm trying to be objective. There are some things about Dave Ramsey I don't like and I don't agree with. And there's a lot of things about these people that I don't like and make me actually want to throw up because it's actually disgusting, okay? And they try to take advantage of people, and I don't like that, okay? But what would a good financial plan actually look like, okay? My idea is, and by the way, I have a course on this. The link is down below. I told you guys, okay? Just because someone is selling you something, it doesn't mean it's bad. It's actually a product, it's good, it makes sense, but overall, it's there. But I also have all my free information on YouTube too. But the overall idea, which I'll give you here for free, by the way, is basically you pay off your debts first. Why do you do that? And you try to stay out of debt completely. Why do you do that? Because when you have debt, you're basically a slave. You're a slave to the lender. And on top of that, you have a bunch of friction. You have a bunch of payments you have to make every single month. You have interest you're basically paying, okay? And the idea is the faster you're done with that, the better you'll feel. On top of that, number two is you save it for emergencies, because at a certain point, something is going to happen. You will have a hiccup. And when that happens, you want to be prepared. That's why you do that. Now, number three, which is where people actually don't mention this, even in the baby steps, okay? Dave says, invest continuously while you're also paying off your home. I also say the same thing. Invest between 10 to 20%. Dave says 15% minimum. And then you also want to buy a home on a 15-year mortgage. They say basically, well, that's going to give you a higher payment. The answer is no. That's not what it actually does, because you limit it to your income. So my plan is, when you're buying a home, try to put down, for example, between 10 to 20% as a down payment. On top of that, you want to buy a home that's no more than a third of your monthly income on a 15-year mortgage. What that means is your payment is going to be a third no matter what. Now, your purchase price of a home is going to be lower, right? Because in reality, you will not be able to afford a $500,000 home if you can only afford a mortgage of $1,300 per month. That's the idea. It's pretty simple. And while you're trying to pay off that home faster, you're also still investing the same amount of money. So 15 years go by. Guess what? You have a paid off home, but on top of that, you have 15 years. Here's some simple math here that I actually want to show you guys. Okay, let's go back to the compound interest calculator. If you've been investing $500, let's say every single month for 15 years, so in 15 years, you have a home that's paid off, but you also have $209,000, okay? And that's pretty good, right? And then what follows that? The idea is you keep investing, but by this point, you have no debt. Those are payments that don't go out of your account anymore. You have an emergency account. If you lose your job, you're solid for 3 to 6 months. You have an investment account with 200 grand, and you have a paid off home, meaning your cost of living is reduced by almost a third, right? I say almost because you still have to pay taxes and insurance and all that stuff on this property. But for the most part, the mortgage is the biggest part. That's basically eliminated. That's basically done. That is the idea, okay? So, and by the way, when you picture retirement, you have to erase the idea of not working anymore. That is stupid, okay? What are you gonna do for 40 years or 20 years if you retire early, all right? The idea is you have to do something. Oh, that's what I kind of tell myself, and I actually enjoy it. But the idea is if you can make like $20,000 a year and you're also investing money and you have passive income coming in, you have a paid off home, you could be solid. Most people don't know this, but most people can retire with a part-time job and a 200 grand or $150,000 investment account. But most people don't know that. I'll make a video on that pretty soon, okay? But my whole goal for this video, not to dive in too deep to a financial plan here, but my whole goal is to make sure you understand when you hear people on the internet telling you about 25% returns, 20% returns, okay? These people will be basically billionaires by now, okay? That's why Warren Buffett's a billionaire. He made 20%, 20%, 25% for decades. And the guy has like billions of dollars. That is what that does, okay? But when people tell you, I know a way to do this, and everything just involves them trying to sell you something and liquidate this, liquidate that, you have to be very careful. Be very careful. And by the way, I have to say this, I'm not talking about Grant Cardone in this video. I'm talking about somebody else. Because it sounds like Grant Cardone, right? With the private jet, but it's not Grant Cardone. And I don't agree with everything Grant Cardone says either, but I did use Grant Cardone in the beginning with a lot of books, okay? But you have to be very careful, okay? Be very careful with the information you receive on the internet, including myself. Don't believe a word I say. Do your research and you'll be confirmed by what I'm saying, okay guys? As always, thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, comment down below made it so I know you made it all the way to the end. As always, peace.